Councilman Boyd will do the invocation.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to say thank you all for coming out tonight. And secondly, I'd like to do the Lord's Prayer, the 23rd song. If that's okay with anyone. If anyone have, it's all right with everybody for me to do the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us for our debts, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. Thank you.
Would you join me in the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Take this opportunity to welcome each of you here. It looks like we got a pretty well full house tonight, which is very unusual. At this time, let's have a moment of silence for Councilman Hound's wife, who will be buried tomorrow. And today, Miss Veronica's fiance was buried already. So if we would, let's have a moment of silence for that. Amen. Item number 5 is approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, this is a real important one. This is a proclamation
Yes.
honoring Miss LaRue Evans,
Oh, yes.
and she is sitting, well, she's on the second row back there.
Okay.
I'm going to read this proclamation. I don't always do it, but in this particular case, I think it's very necessary. This proclamation honoring LaRue M. Evans' 100th birthday. Whereas LaRue M. Evans was born May 21st, 1919 in Stokes, and whereas LaRue M. Evans attended the Stokes School and graduated valedictorian of her class in 1936, and whereas LaRue M. Evans graduated from East Carolina Teachers College in 1940 with an A.B. degree in English, French, and history. Whereas LaRue M. Evans married her husband, James Alex Evans, Jr. in 1943 of Winterville, and has continued to be a resident. And whereas LaRue M. Evans and her husband had one son, Delisle Evans. And whereas LaRue M. Evans graduated from East Carolina College in 1960 with a master's degree, and whereas LaRue M. Evans did postgraduate study at University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill in 1966, and whereas LaRue M. Evans taught school in 1940 to 1981, including history at Winterville High School from 1942 to 1946, and whereas LaRue M. Evans was active in promoting the growth improvement of the town of Winterville, chaired the town's Centennial Committee, served as secretary of the Winterville Chamber of Commerce, and led the fundraising drive for and directed the restoration of the A.W. Ames House for a museum and cultural center. And whereas LaRue M. Evans established an endowment fund for the maintenance of the Winterville Museum, served on the board of directors for the Winterville Historical and Arts Society in 2011, she received Citizen of the Year Award from the Winterville Chamber of Commerce. And whereas LaRue M. Evans continued to be a viable part of the Winterville community, and whereas on the celebration of 100th birthday, the town council honors her for her contributions to our community. In witness therefore, I do set by hand and cause the seal of Winterville to be affixed the 13th day of May, 2019, and is signed by Douglas Jackson, the mayor. And I'm going to come down here and present her with this proclamation. Great that you have lived that long. I see that you graduated a year out of bowl. I consider myself old. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also have another proclamation, and this is really important too. This is the 50th anniversary of Municipal Clerks Week, May 5th through the 11th, and this was done around our clerk attended a school or class last week. All the week it was, where was it? In Chapel Hill. So we are lucky to have him as clerk, and we are glad that we can honor this proclamation. All righty, item number 7. The first is the presentation by Mr. Greg Needham from the library. Here he comes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm thankful to have the opportunity to come before you all once again with a budget request for the Winterville Library. I've got just a few slides. I saw the agenda it looks very full, but I'll be brief. Just a few slides to show the, and I appreciate having that loaded ahead of time, to show the request and some details. There's a beautiful Winterville Library. First of all, just one slide with the revenues. The top item is the town of Winterville, and you'll see that, as I'm happy to report, there's not an increase there. Been able to hold the line on that for you. No change in the funds requested from town of Winterville. You've got your extra funds that you managed to get the county to put forward a couple of years ago. That continues. Desk receipts look like there'll be a little bit more in the coming fiscal year. And our state aid, that always depends on exactly what the General Assembly does. So that is a projection that's just very slightly less than we thought we'd have last year. So that's your revenue at $207,368. A couple of slides with the expenditure budget. Wages and benefits cover 6 part-time staff and 1 full-time MLS librarian. That's your degreed professional librarian, Amanda Prokop, who's back in the corner there. One of our best and brightest. You've got great staff at the library. That does include a 2.7% market adjustment merit combination that all the library staff are getting access to. For books, you've got $17,000. That's very slightly less than the current fiscal year. We've got some fantastic software that's helping us to be more efficient in our book ordering, so you'll just get more mileage out of each dollar. Amanda's one of the experts on staff at using that. We've also got your other formats, books on CD and DVDs, ebooks, e-magazines, other online resources, and your periodicals at the bottom stays unchanged. Your internet, again, that's really economical. That $1,175 is only 20% of the actual cost because we qualify for federal E-rate funding, E-rate discounts, same budget for supplies, fuel and vehicle maintenance for the courier, which comes every day to the branch. That's 250,000 books that the folks in Winterville have access to that come by courier, and $13,000 for all of our various computer hardware and software licenses that get renewed. Post office increased the cost of postage slightly this year, so that's budgeted in. That $4,000 is for everything from the annual audit, which the library's audit is squeaky clean. I'm happy to report. Collection agency and our E-rate consultant that gets us all those discounts. Administrative services, that's where some of your savings come in, as Amanda has just gotten stronger as a manager over the years. That takes less from the administration of the system. So your total expenditures are $207,368. And that's the whole package. You've got, I think, a first-rate library in the community with increasing use. Really appreciate all of your support of the library and literacy and computer literacy and lifelong learning. We'll do our best to make every penny count and make the library the best it can be for the people of Winterville. I'm happy to address any questions if you have any.
Anyone have any questions?
What's the average attendance each day?
Each day, how many people come in the door? That's a good
Average.
question. Let's see. I'm going to calculate that in my head real quick.
It's about 200 people a day when we're open from 9 to 8.
Or I might not have to if Amanda's there to back me up. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Turn it off. Let me close that.
And
Thank you, Ms.
for the
Stevens.
members of the board, I do have their monthly reports that show the number of people using our library, and it's amazing. It's really a high number all the time, based on I think a lot of times we're next to Shepherd, the main branch, which saves a lot for our community and the service that we're providing to the community as a whole, I know. But I think our library is well used by the community.
Okay. Item number 2 is the Pitt County Farm and Food Council, Ms. Doris Connell.
Good evening, Council. I'm Lee Guth. I'm the Cooperative Extension Director here in Pitt County, and I'm a member of the Pitt County Farm and Food Council.
And I'm Doris Connell. I'm the coordinator for the Pitt County Farm and Food Council.
So we wanted to tell you just quickly, we've brought you a resource that we want you to put to work for us. The Pitt County Farm and Food Council is a council appointed by the county commissioners. We've been in existence just over 2 years with 13 members representing all parts of the county and all parts of the food system. So we have farmers and restaurateurs. We have people involved in health. We have businessmen, we have community garden members, cooperative extension, Pitt County planning, just a diverse group of representatives. And we're all concerned about food and food issues. Pitt County has a higher than the state average food insecurity. for our county. So there are things like that that concern us, and then there are things that excite us because Pitt County is in the top 13, 12, 11 in some of the major commodities produced in agriculture for North Carolina. So there's a lot to celebrate here. This group of 13 work with three main goals. They have three circles or committees under them that are working on food insecurity, they're working on nutrition education, and then agriculture economic development. And out of that work has come what Doris wants to share with you tonight, which is the Pitt County Food Finder.
Hi, so when we started the council, one of the things that we did was go out and hold forums in different parts of the county and meet a lot of people and talk to them about what are your food issues and what would help you. And a lot of people said, well, we need a source to find out, directory to find out about food and, you know, where the farmers markets are, where I can find a hot meal, where I can give away my produce. Well, you know, the thought of a directory on paper was kind of old school, I guess. We didn't know, you know, how to keep it updated, how to get it out to people. So we realized that a lot of people carry around a little directory in their hand. And so we decided to hire somebody to develop an app to locate a lot of different things. And I had hoped to bring you a demonstration. I didn't get that done. But what we have, and I know you can't see it, but it's just an app, and it's pretty easy to use. It says Find Food. And when you do that, you will find a list of different things you can look for. And then when you pull that up, like if you pull up farmers markets, interestingly enough, Winterville Farmers Market is the first one on my list. It's because it's the closest. And so it will have, it says it's 180 yards away, as a matter of fact. So from here you can get directions, you can get information about when it's open, who to contact about that. And we are constantly updating this and getting more information. Right now our categories are community gardens, meals, food pantries, farmers markets, farms, CSAs and agritourism, volunteer and donating produce, food and farming classes, and community services. And I believe this belongs to the people of Pitt County, anybody in the county. We want to use it as well as we can for the county. We can also access this on the computer, so it's not limited to people who have smartphones. And hopefully we'll get it out in the hands of service providers so that they too, like if they're doing nutrition work or medical work, that they can look where somebody can find fresh food, or where they can get meals, or where they can apply for SNAP. That information's on here. So hopefully this will be helpful, and I love input, so if anybody wants to call me and ask me or to put something else on there, I will certainly all it has to do is be about food and be helpful to the community. So if it's okay, I'll pass these cards around.
I just passed them.
Oh, you just passed? Oh, she did.
I did.
Oh, she's ahead of me. Thank you. I guess, are there any questions that y'all have?
Anyone have any questions?
And again, just to reiterate, the way it benefits you sitting in this council is that, one, your city services are already there. It's free to download, so anybody can download this for free. So your city council, you're already getting your farmers market represented. Agritourism near you, Strawberries on 903, it's on there. So if you have visitors coming into town and they want something fun to do, you can look it up. Where's a farm I could send them to? Brock's Berries, it's on there. You can send them there. You must have folks that come to you in need, who are experiencing a food shortage, pastors who have folks approaching their churches that need a resource. Maybe you know of one, but you don't know of one that's open today. You can go to this, and it's going to pull out the ones in the closest proximity to you in that order. Also, if you have Spanish members of your community, if their phone is set up for them to receive information in Spanish, eventually this is how it will work for them as well. That will be the first language it pulls up. We're still working on that translation. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Feel free to contact us.
Thank you for coming. Very informative.
Yes, it is.
Okay, item number 3 is the Greenway Master Plan. Christina Whitfield.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. This is not Christina Whitfield.
Yeah, I see that.
This is Jeff Moore with Kimley Horn. Jeff is our project manager with Kimley Horn, working on our planning efforts. As a reminder, we do have a few planning efforts, or we're working on a few planning efforts with them. The first one, or not really in order, but Greenway Master Plan, Fork Swamp Canal Greenway Plan, and the most recent addition, the Capital Improvement Plan. The two planning efforts that we have here tonight for you are the Greenway Master Plan and the Capital Improvement Plan that is specific to Parks and Recreation Department. One thing I do want to note, though I'm sure Jeff will mention, the Greenway Master Plan is a town-wide Greenway Master Plan, town-wide Greenway planning document. Of course, you've also heard us refer to the Fork Swamp Canal Greenway Plan. This is not that. This is a general Greenway planning document. The Fork Swamp Canal Greenway stuff is still a work in progress. So I did want to make sure to highlight that before Jeff got into it. That being said, I will turn it over to Jeff.
Thank you, Evan, and thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. As Evan mentioned, we're going to talk about the Greenway Master Plan that's been developed, and the reason why Christina's not here is because the town has asked us to do several things. The Greenway Master Plan, the PARTF application, the engineering drawings for the Fork Swamp Canal Greenway, and lately, most recently, the Capital Improvement Program. And since I've been involved with all four of those, I drew the shortest straw and came in Christina's place. So with that, tonight we're going to talk about the Greenway Master Plan and the Capital Improvement Program. So the Greenway Master Plan outlines the active transportation work that preceded it, such as the Greenville Urban Area MPO Regional Bike and Ped Plan, the Winterville Pedestrian Plan, and the Pitt County Greenway Plan. The plan highlights the all-day charrette that was held back on October 4th of last year, as well as the tools that went into marketing and advertising that meeting. And then the Capital Improvement Program that will be last is basically for Parks and Rec and for the next 5 fiscal years for the town of Winterville. So the public input was held in the Assembly Room back on October 4th from 5:30 to 7. We held interviews and engaged with approximately 10 different town representatives. Also included town staff, chambers of commerce, members from the high school, Pitt County Community College, Parks and Rec, as well as town council. It gave us an opportunity to speak to over 50 residents related to the town-wide Greenway Master Plan. It was advertised by flyer. 4 different press releases were released to the Daily Reflector as well as the Times Leader. We used yard signs, social media, and a formal letter to property owners that were adjacent to the Fork Swamp Canal Greenway. The different trail types and support facilities, either we're recommending a side path, which is a type of 10-foot path parallel to a roadway, or it would be an off-site greenway. Basically off-site, away from the road, basically following paralleling streams, for example, and sometimes sanitary sewer easements. The recommendations that we're making can be either signature greenways, core greenways, greenways with partners, or non-greenway support facilities. The signature greenways create an identity. For example, the Fork Swamp Canal Greenway, the East Main Street bicycle lanes, as well as the Old Tar Road side path would represent a signature greenway. It's a very important greenway system as part of the overall network. A core greenway would serve as a major backbone of the greenway network and be a critical connection to major destinations and attractions. An example is the Four Lines Road side path, the Reedy Branch Road side path that would tie South Central High School and Creekside Elementary School to the rest of the town. Greenways with partners would be an example where you would partner with the City of Greenville or Pitt County Community College, could be private developers. An example would be the extension of the Fork Swamp Canal Greenway across Fork Swamp into Boyd Lee Park. That would be an example of a partnership with the City of Greenville. And then lastly, the non-greenway support facilities. These are basically filling in the gaps along the network in order to complete the system. It might be access to residential areas. An example with that would be the Main Street bicycle lanes as you connect from Old Tar Road to the Fork Swamp Canal Greenway. I see that that slide's a little bit dim, unfortunately, so I'll just focus on the fact that this represents the Fork Swamp Canal Greenway. That is highlighted by the town owns the property along Cedar Ridge Drive on the north side of the map, as well as the property on the south end at the end of Main Street. And also completing that loop would be along Old Tar Road, the side path that's being developed and built by NCDOT as part of their transportation improvement project. And then on the right side, as you can see, is Boydley Park, is the connection that goes across Fork Swamp Canal Greenway and ties into Boydley Park. The next is the Main Street two-way bicycle tracks, or the bicycle lanes that I mentioned earlier. This basically, there's some faded bike lanes out there now, and this project would basically upgrade those and possibly develop a cycle track system, or just repaint the bike lanes with some tubular markers or some other appurtenance. And then lastly, the provision of a side path along Four Lines Road and Reedy Branch Road, as well as along NC 903, were projects that will fill a large gap in the connectivity and provide connection from the east and the west in Winterville. And this side path would provide direct access from South Central High School and Creekside Elementary. So those are some of the highlights of the Greenway Master Plan we want to touch on tonight and give you an opportunity to see kind of the general nature of the projects that were being developed as a town-wide greenway system. Switching gears over to the capital improvement program, what's that?
Jeff's trying to jump on ahead. Go ahead.
Are we ready to take questions?
So of course, Jeff just presented the townwide Greenway Master Plan. What we're asking for tonight is adoption of said Greenway Master Plan, which each of you has in your agenda packet. And of course, we certainly stand by for any questions, comments, anything like that that you might have.
Question? So you're asking for a motion to adopt this green?
This adoption that you're speaking of, it's only going to say that we agree with what you have found. We're not saying that we are agreeing that we are going forward to go ahead on and purchase or start developing this product. This right here just saying that we just approving what you have found of your development or your plans or for the future for this.
Yes, sir, that is 100% correct. You are approving and adopting the planning document, the townwide Greenway Master Plan. It is in no way, shape, form, or fashion taking action to begin on any projects.
Okay.
It's like your other master plans.
Yeah.
It's like a 10,000-foot view, and it encompasses the direction that council wanted to go in looking at potential projects for the town. But you'll still come back and approve or have the chance to talk about each individual project.
Good.
So do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I'll turn it back over to Jeff for the CIP.
All right. Thanks, Evan. So the capital improvement program was developed through a various list of conference calls with town staff, basically developing a capital list. What are the improvements, parks and recreation facilities that are needed to serve the community? So we basically developed a pretty long list of capital improvements that would be part of the program. Then we took each one and developed a cost opinion. Basically, what is the opinion of probable cost, both for construction, for planning, for programming, all of those things, and developed that into cost opinions. That was followed by a timeline, basically a prioritization, basically looking at timelines from 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, and greater than 10 years. Those were the 4 time horizons that we evaluated as part of our program development. So from that, we were able to prioritize with input from town staff, what are the priorities that the town would like to move forward with first, or what is the first group of projects, and those were moved up. And then for all the projects that would be from 1 to 5 years, which was about 12 to 13 projects, we developed project sheets, and those project sheets is what I'll briefly discuss with you tonight. The first one is the multi-purpose and recreational facility. That was the first one that the town wanted us to put a cost to, and basically develop more information about. So each of these project sheets includes a project description, the project funding, the time horizon, and then of course the detailed project costs that we developed as part of our CIP. This includes a 28,000 square foot building. It includes a gymnasium, offices. It's including an entryway and support classrooms and facilities to support the recreational facility. The cost opinion that we developed included about $200 per square foot for the office and the recreational facility part. And then we included a gym for about $400 per square foot. The total cost that we developed was about a little bit over $12 million for the multi-purpose and recreational building. So how does that compare to other facilities around the state? Well, I know that that's kind of faded in this view, but I'll summarize that there's about 12 to 15 recreational facilities on that list, and they range anywhere from $84 a square foot for the town of Mooresville up to $292 a square foot for Huntersville, which are neighbors. And the average cost of facilities was about $184 per square foot. So we took $200 per square foot for this multi-use facility that we developed. Project 2A and Project 2B are basically the different pieces of the Fork Swamp Canal Greenway. 2A is the part at the end of Main Street, where it's built on town property, and it would connect to Boyd Lee Park as part of this improvement. Project 2B is the other side of Fork Swamp. That's the part that parallels Cedar Ridge Drive, and it's part of the CIP program, both as 2A and 2B. Those are considered the second priorities, but because of funding, looking at A and B, and they're very separate, very separate facilities and could be funded separately. Project 3 is a maintenance shop. It includes the construction of a new maintenance facility within the Winterville Recreation Park. It was a 3,000 square foot building, and the cost we developed was just under $1 million. Project number 4 was a multi-purpose field. It was basically a new park, basically a maintenance shop within the Winterville Recreational Park as well. Project 5 was an outdoor fitness area. Basically, we developed a cost of about $118,000. It would include outdoor fitness areas located along trails and sidewalks, also within Winterville Recreational Park. So as you notice, there's several improvements being offered here to existing parks. And the 5 projects that I've mentioned, the first 5 are in that 1 to 3 time horizon. Basically built to be planned and built within the next 1 to 3 years is the time horizon. The next several projects would be in that 3 to 5 year range. The next one here is an off-leash dog area, basically building a vinyl-coated chain link fence, about a 2-acre off-leash dog park. The total cost would be approximately $230,000 is what we've estimated to build the dog park. The 7th project is a regulation baseball field. Basically be a high school regulation baseball field. It includes all the lighting, all the dugouts, all the various pieces to the baseball field, and we developed a cost of about $800,000 for that project. Project number 8 would be the taking the faded bike lanes on East Main Street and then redeveloping them either into a two-way bicycle track or a one-way bicycle track, or just repaving or repainting those lines to facilitate the bike lanes. The cost of that could range anywhere from $30,000 to $48,000, depending on what improvement is made. Project number 9 is a splash pad. It's essentially a 2,000 square foot splash pad with all the spray features, the recreational pumps, and all the associated appurtenances. Working with town staff, and based on our estimates, it's about a $400,000 project. And some of these are on the upper end of the range, but we wanted, as a planning tool, we wanted to make sure that those contingencies are robust and make sure that the town is able to plan appropriately. Number 10 is a playground. It would be at a future park site. It would include approximately a 4,000 square foot play area is the assumption that we made within this cost. And the cost was about $250,000 for the new playground. Project number 11 is a multi-purpose field, but it's the same cost and the same project as number 4, but we're looking at a 3 to 5 year time horizon, meaning project number 4 was a multi-purpose field within a 1 to 3 time horizon, but the town wants an opportunity to perhaps build a second facility within the next 3 to 5 years. So we put that, so basically it's the same cost, but it could be 2 different fields, at 2 different time horizons. And then lastly, the picnic shelter, basically looking at a 1,200 square foot picnic shelter, developing all the furnishings and everything that will go with that. We came up with a cost of about $200,000 with that. So in conclusion, the capital improvement program represents a vision for infrastructure. As the town expands and provides more parks and recreation facilities, we have developed a program that is intended to meet that vision and provide those facilities.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay, if I understood you correctly, projects 6 through 11 were 3 to 5 years, or does that include 12 as well?
Yes, that would include 12 as well.
So
that
there are
would-
no 5+ year projects in the capital improvement?
That is correct. So the goal that we had was to go from basically 0 to 5, and that would be the 5 next fiscal years. That would be the horizon that was studied. There were about 12 to 13 projects that were called beyond that point. And a lot of those lined up with the Greenway Master Plan. Some of the greenways that were developed and listed as part of the Greenways Master Plan were listed in that 5 years and beyond.
May I ask who defined the 5-year time frame?
Yeah, the conference calls that we held were with Ben and Evan, basically going through that list of 20 to 21 projects and just really thinking about, so which projects are priorities and trying to prioritize those in the right order. And the way it shook out was simply that this group of projects would be relatively achievable for the next 1 to 5 years, and this group of projects is probably beyond that. Now, you, as the council members, you certainly have an opportunity to change that and make recommendations, to the contrary, but certainly that's the input that we received and felt like it was justified.
So there is a listing of these projects that are 5+ years?
Yes,
somewhere
absolutely.
That we can add to this plan?
Yes, absolutely. That could be added to the plan. It sure can.
Okay.
Sure can.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And with that, I've completed my presentation. Would be glad to take any questions as Evan walks up.
So again, similar to the last one, this is a planning document. We are asking for adoption of said planning document, the capital improvement plan. However, that does not indicate any moving forward on any construction, implementing any timelines, things of that nature.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion?
Yes.
Does that include the prioritization of the projects?
I'm sorry, say that again?
How are we going to, you guys prioritized, we didn't.
That's correct. Town staff prioritize this. Now, keep in mind, again, this is you've heard this before in different capital improvement plans. Just because we say that it's this way right now doesn't mean that it can't change. It's a living, breathing document.
I noticed that quite a few of the projects were for Winterville Recreation, were designated for the park up there. But I didn't see but maybe one designated for Hillcrest, which was that high school field, right?
So part of that was, if that was put in place at Hillcrest, and of course the reasoning behind that is that there's a ball field that exists there right now, is that if that was built into Hillcrest Park, it would take up most of the remaining area at the park. So there would not be much if any remaining area for additional facilities and amenities aside from redevelopment of any existing.
This outdoor fitness area. I know, Hillcrest is billed as the family park. So, and of course, our wonderful recreation park, of course, holds more competitive sports. Why couldn't that be in both parks?
It certainly could be.
So you're basically saying that we can change these projects so that they could fit. I realize that some of the projects are things that we would put into a future park too.
Yes, ma'am. And, that number wouldn't change from park to park. Again, this is a high-level planning document, so certainly, yes, ma'am.
My suggestion would be, council deciding to move forward, that potentially this is your really beginning document towards an expansion of a larger CIP that's got a longer range, timeframe included, and then council can prioritize projects based off of things that you have discussed in your vision setting, et cetera.
Yeah, and that's a great point. The other thing, this is the first CIP that Parks and Recreation has had. So, we began with these projects, but again, that's not to say that as we continue to develop as a town and community, that priorities, projects, and things of that nature certainly change, develop, et cetera.
You know, I'm looking at the radar on this Winterville Greenway Master Plan presentation. I think that was good. It was a great presentation that you presented to us and very attractive. But my concern is that we've been getting feedback from our community. I have. And there are some serious concerns about the plans itself. And I do believe that we discussed this before we even presented or had you to come in to go out and do to check with our community and see if they desire to have something like this. But what I'm receiving back as feedback, they are saying no.
Well, Councilman Moy, I would say yes, we have received feedback that for people who are not in favor of greenways, and specifically some certain projects that have been discussed and delineated in our Greenway Master Plan, but we have received, I would say, a large number of people who are in favor of such recreational facilities as well. So I don't want to speak for Evan and who he's heard from, but we've received feedback from both sides of.
Yeah. So as far as that goes, and I didn't include some of that in this because I wanted to make sure that there was a differentiation, because this is not specifically the Fork Swamp Canal Greenway Plan. This is a completely separate planning document. Yes, it includes it in there. However, it doesn't say that we're going to move forward and break ground tomorrow. So we have received comment, both positive and negative. Of course, we've had public input sessions and things of that nature. And we've also had the comment forms that we've placed online. So when the Fork Swamp Canal Greenway Plan is finalized, just because that plan is complete, it's up to you, the town council, to decide whether or not this project moves forward. So once we complete the document, just because the document is complete and we bring it to you, again, that doesn't mean that we're breaking ground the next day. We do have some of that public comment, and we will include some of that when we get to that point in that planning effort. But we didn't want to include it in this because, again, it's too separate.
Am I jumping ahead to ask about the party grant? What's included in the grant that you're applying for? You said that you're preparing a party grant?
Yes, they prepare the part of grant application for us. Yes, ma'am.
And what's included in the application?
That is, so part of is Fork Swamp Canal Greenway A and B. So the entire loop.
Are we applying in this round?
We are not applying for it. So this current application period has already passed. Deadline was May 1st. We are not applying for this current funding cycle.
So it would be next year at the earliest.
At the very earliest, the next time that we could apply for PARTF for any opportunity, including this one or others, would be May 1st of 2020.
And we got the part when we built the new park.
We did, yes, sir.
What year was that?
2008, I believe, is when we got that PARTF.
So we don't keep like a grant. Basically, we don't apply every cycle.
No, ma'am, we do not. No, and you know, PARTF is one of those. PARTF is a big one. You can get up to $500,000. And of course, you want to make sure that when you do it, especially an effort like that, you don't just take a shot in the dark, that you get all of your ducks in a row, you get all your support. It is and can be political. And Jeff, if you have any information on PARTF, you can certainly jump in with me. But we, making sure that you've got everything together to have as complete, accurate, and as supported of a grant application that you can to turn it in, because the authority doesn't, and I don't blame them, the authority does not look kindly on, for lack of a better term, wasting their time.
I was told that you should always keep one going, whether it was a small grant or a large grant. That often communities lose money because they don't apply for the smaller grants. And
well, now this is specifically PARTF, not any other grants.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Well, with party, that you would apply for, say, a smaller amount to do something with. How much has this study cost? And I know I should know, probably in my head. this master plan and
The entire planning effort, 135,000, I believe, of which $35,000 we got a grant for.
okay.
How much is grant?
35,000. And that was through North Carolina Division of Water Resources. I was about to say Clean Water Management Trust Fund, but I knew that wasn't right.
And I know we
Yeah.
talked about the product grant. Is this firm, are you looking at other areas that we could get grants from to provide some of these recreational things for our community? Are there other agencies, businesses, whatever, that that you could look at for those kinds of funds? Are you looking at those?
No, the town asked us specifically to develop the part of grant application, and we've done that. We've submitted that to them probably back in the February, March timeframe, and the decision was made to not make that submittal to the part of grant application back, I guess, a couple of months ago. There are other opportunities, such as the North Carolina Division of Parks and Recreation. There's the Clean Water Management Trust Fund is another opportunity for federal funding. There's an opportunity to try to get surface transportation funds from North Carolina DOT, administered from the Federal Highway Administration. So there are other opportunities for funding, but we haven't been charged with moving forward with any of those at this time.
And one other reason, or I shouldn't say reason, but item that I want to add in, because I do think it's important, because we've kind of been talking about this through this whole thing, is part of the reason that we ended up holding back was part of grants are extremely competitive, and they will tell you that you do not want to apply one year and apply again the next. You are basically out of consideration the next funding cycle.
And that's the opposite thing our politicians are telling us, our representatives are telling us. They're telling us to apply and let them know that you have applied.
Right. And North Carolina Recreation Resource Services, via the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund Authority, they're our liaison between, and I mean, they will tell you point blank, don't apply the next cycle. And there's probably a combination of time, money, and the chances of you getting it, because of course they're trying to spread these funds out. But part of the other reason is, we, again, with the prioritization, we wanted to make sure that we were not competing against ourselves, and that we were moving with the priorities of this group, the mayor and council, when we move forward with applying for certain funding opportunities. Things like multi-purpose facility, greenway facility, things of that nature. And depending upon the type of the facility, there may be more grant opportunities directly or related that you can spin for a certain opportunity, like a greenway, rather than a multi-purpose facility. So with some of the different things going on, we wanted to hold on to make sure that we had the right foot forward in the best direction for what we had coming down the pipes.
Even though the facility is number one, it's not necessarily your top priority. Even though I see it's number one as far as projects is concerned, but that does not necessarily mean that that's.
So that's number one on the priority list, but not for part of purposes, if that answers. No, as far as, so this planning effort began before the CIP. So when we started the CIP, again, much later on, there seemed to be a lot more things starting to happen, conversations starting to take place. So we felt, for the purpose of the CIP, that was number one.
Okay. I'm fine. I'm glad.
I think we would look to council when we get down to actually prioritizing some of the larger projects, to make sure that we're all working on at your direction as to what you want to see happen in what particular order.
You
Not
know-
that they have to be each exclusive, but we want to make sure we're working towards what you all want to see done.
I want to ask the citizen tonight that you heard of the 12 projects that was presented to you tonight. I ask you if you don't mind, take a few minutes of your time, just send me an email to let me know how you actually feel about these 12 projects. And because that's what I represent, myself and you all. So it's very important if I get feedback.
I think this is the improper time to do that.
Well, but I'm just saying.
We
for them.
we do have a motion and a second just to approve the plan. That's all it is.
Yes, but that was just for the citizens.
It's not a public hearing. We'll have a public hearing down the road somewhere.
Okay.
And, so, hearing, we do have a motion and a second for just to approve the plan. As Evan has pointed out several times, we're not gonna start digging holes and pouring cement or anything tomorrow, or it's like way in the future, so.
That's right, yeah, this is very high-level planning
This is just a
document.
plan.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say all of these, but some of the larger items, multi-purpose facility, for example, you would have continued planning efforts on those specific items that would further delve down into project numbers as well. So again, these are high-level numbers for a high-level planning effort.
Mel, can I say
Okay,
something?
is any further discussion on the motion?
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
Well, the reason why I said what I did, some of these plans have 1 to 3 years. And that's the reason why I said what I did.
Well, and also if I could point out and remind council, capital improvement projects are things staff has worked with for some time. I know that's not something you all see with regularity, but we treat those documents, we try to, as living, breathing documents. So every year, they're supposed to be reassessed and timeframes adjusted, cost estimates adjusted if necessary, so that you try to be reasonable in keeping those in a document for planning purposes.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 8 is public comment period, and I was instructed several years ago when we reached this point to read the public comment policy. The public comment period of 30 minutes provides an opportunity for residents to comment on any item included in the agenda or to address the town council on any other matter related to the town of Winterville. For an item included in the public hearing section of the agenda, residents should address the council at the time the mayor invites public comment on the item. No public comment may be made to the council during the meeting except during the public comment period or as part of a public hearing. Individual speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and no more than 3 speakers may address the council on a single matter. The town council may elect to take no action on the matter addressed by a speaker, may schedule the matter for further consideration at a future council meeting, or may refer the matter to town staff for disposition. Copies of the public comment period are available in the rear of the assembly room. And the first person that has signed up is, I might mispronounce his name, is Brad Guth.
All right, you got it.
President of the Winterville Chamber of Commerce.
It's Guth, just like Ruth. So
Okay.
you got it. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to Mayor and Council this evening. I'm basically here in advance of the budget work session to thank you for your previous contributions to the Winterville Chamber of Commerce in terms of the budget allocations that you've made. And I know Miss Debbie has submitted a request again for this year that'll be coming up at your council work session in May, the end of this month, and just wanted to be here to endorse that on behalf of the volunteers of the Chamber. We do have a number of folks here in the audience that are volunteers with the Chamber of Commerce. We have Rebecca Kavanaugh with, if you want to, okay, and then we have, no, you don't have to stand, Glenda, and then, of course, Pam Justice with Southern Bank. So we appreciate everybody. I don't know if there's anybody else here that's in particular, but we appreciate them coming. And again, we're asking for $25,000 for the Chamber of Commerce this year, and I think that's a pretty good deal for you all in terms of the leverage that you get for volunteer labor like myself and all these volunteers that you have that are working on behalf of the business community in Winterville and promoting the town of Winterville. They have enlightened self-interest. Obviously, we want our businesses to grow and prosper in our community, and we want the town of Winterville to do well. So we hope that you will give us favorable consideration at your retreat or your work session when it comes up. And if you have any questions for me about the budget in the meantime, between now and then, you can email me or give me a call, and I'll be happy to speak on any item or any concern that you've had. We've had a number of new initiatives that we've introduced this year, so we'll be happy to talk with you about those as well. So thank you very much.
Appreciate you coming. I'm sure we'll consider your request at the budget hearing we have.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
The next person that has signed up is Mr. Glenn Johnson.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. Good evening, Council. First, I would like to mention that today marks the first anniversary of my mom going into eternal fellowship with our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. But I have two more moms that's seated here today, Mom Robinson and Mom Parker. Now, do I still have to call you Honorable Mayor, Your Honor?
You call him Mom.
All right, anyway, I'm here for a very important reason, to give thanks to all of you, all the gentlemen that are seated behind me, Police Chief Wellhite and his department, Chief Moore and his department, and all the members of the Fire Rescue EMS. You see, in 2 weeks will mark 5 years I have been a resident of Winterville, North Carolina. When I got here, I was here following being on life support in a coma for 2 years, and I spent 3 years in a nursing facility. And when I was discharged, they said I had to find somewhere to live where it was safe and respectable people and things like that. And my daughter, we scouted around North Carolina, and we finally found Main Street Village in Winterville. And I said, this is it. This is where I'm going to reside. Because, number one, when you have a brain injury, they're concerned about sidewalks. There's no sidewalks near my property, so that was a plus. There are stairs in my home, but I'll never take the stairs anyway. So attending the brain injury support group meetings at Vidant Medical Center through Beyond, the brain injury support, the Brain Injury Association of North Carolina, that led to other ventures in Goldsboro, North Carolina, and Wayne County, where I have attended a brain injury conference with a panel of doctors. When I told them my story and told them how the medical reports from that accident alone is over 4,000 pages, and told them that the word remarkable is mentioned in there so many times, and they're like, what do you mean? I said, because after every result from a test or procedure, the doctor would write remarkable. And I said, well, what I say and what we call that in the Christian faith is a miracle. So they said, yeah, but they're not permitted to say miracle, but I can, because I am a living miracle. And I just wanted to say thank you to all of you. I have chosen Winterville as my residence. Should I live to be 100 years old, like Miss LaRue. I'll say it's because I chose a great place to live. I sliced up to good life. Winterville, North Carolina. So I could go on and on and up. I know I got 3 minutes, and it's up. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Okay, the next one is, I'm gonna probably, is it Richie?
Shreves.
Richie Shreves?
Good evening, and thank you for letting me speak. I'm just going to read some from a letter that I had sent a few months ago to the council and to some others at the town. I just wanted to ensure that it was fresh in everyone's mind, and also I feel like it's important because I think I am speaking for many people in our neighborhood. So I will read part of what I had sent before. I'm writing on behalf of my entire household to express adamant opposition to the proposed Fork Swamp Greenway. While my passionate opposition is partly driven by concerns about my own personal property, privacy, and safety, my opposition is also based on the fact I feel this project is not financially, operationally, or environmentally responsible for the town of Winterville. Our house backs up to the wood line that parallels Fork Swamp Creek and Cedar Ridge. Each of us along the tree line enjoy the privacy, the view of nature, and the abundant wildlife that the undisturbed woods provides to us. In fact, I'm confident most, if not all, of my tree line neighbors would list these reasons as part of their decision to purchase their homes. It is a rare find within the city limits of any town. We were also assured that the land behind our homes would never be developed. Obviously, that was true at one point, otherwise the developers would have used the land when they developed Cedar Ridge subdivision. While we enjoy the privacy and the beauty of beauty of the natural setting provides us, we do have to contend with flooding concerns. During past hurricanes, water has reached the back deck of our home and many homes on our side of the street. During periods of heavy rain or lingering rain, we also have standing water along the back of our properties. Installing a greenway between our homes and the creek will essentially serve as a dam, preventing water from running off our property to the creek. The greenway will also assuredly suffer damage on the creek side during storms when rising water encroaches on the greenway dam. Even worse will be the damage to our homes if the water breaches the greenway onto our property, as it will surely reach our home's foundations in such a scenario. We will also be burdened with the need to purchase flood insurance to protect our property from the inevitable. The Greenway is also not financially or operationally responsible, in our opinion, for the town of Winterville. The town's finances do not allow you to properly maintain the infrastructure for the core services provided to us today, as witnessed by many potholes on non-DOT main streets, cracked and broken pavement. And in our neighborhood alone, the storm drain in front of our house has been caving in for many years, and water backs up and floods the streets within our neighborhood just from a heavy downpour or extended rain event. From what I've seen in your budget, I have not seen any money or human resources budgeted for the upkeep of a greenway if it were installed. I've heard several times from various town representatives that the greenway is what the people want. That statement is based on the responses of a few hundred people representing less than 3% of the population of Winterville. There are several hundred residents within Cedar Ridge and adjacent neighborhoods that would tell you that we do not want the greenway. It is our property, our families, and our lives that will be directly negatively impacted. I also struggle with the town's claim that the greenway will have minimal impact on the wildlife and their natural habitat. How a 14-foot wide paved and gravel surface void of trees would not impact the wildlife and their habitat. There are many types of wildlife in these woods, including the endangered red cockaded woodpecker. It seems to me the environmentally responsible thing to do is to leave the area as it is, undisturbed.
4 minutes.
Excuse me?
You've been 4 minutes.
Okay. So
You
I'll
already
stop.
gone over 1
Okay, I'll
minute.
stop. I'll stop.
I'll just get, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The next, it says Moose Lodge number 885 has signed up to speak next.
Evening, Brother Mayor, council members. Thank you for, my name is Wayne Edge. I'm a member of Greenville Moose Lodge 885. At this time, I would like to reserve any comments, if possible, until after the ordinance for the new town is read, so that we may find out what the new ordinance is due to the sound ordinance. This is the reason I'm here tonight. This is the reason we're looking
It's
into.
on the agenda for the chief to present it, so if you'd like.
If I could have the time after it's presented to have any type of comments afterwards, if I could, please.
After he presents it, we'll let
Yes,
you.
sir. Thank you.
Okay, the next, under item number 9 is the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second. All approve of the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next item, 10, is the old business Brookstone subdivision, Phase 1.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As always, it's a pleasure to be in front of you guys tonight. So if you guys will remember, last meeting we tabled this to give the residents of Brookstone subdivision and representatives from D.R. Horton time to get together and kind of work out some questions that the residents had. So just to refresh your memory, we'll run through just some site data. So you guys know where it's at. It's on Church Street, down past the Operations Center. So D.R. Horton is requesting to remove the 25% of homes shall have brick veneer exterior and replace it with all homes having at least 25% stone or brick on the facades. So obviously there's the aerial, the subdivision map, the 22 lots that D.R. Horton is interested in purchasing upon approval of their amendment request. So that's the process we're at right now. So just to let you know that the residents and D.R. Horton representatives did meet on the 1st of this month. They did have a productive meeting. They had a good representation of the residents. I think they had over a dozen residents there. They all left the meeting, from my understanding, in support of D.R. Horton's request. I do know that Mike Money, project manager with D.R. Horton, is available tonight to answer any questions. I don't know if any representatives from the residents are in attendance. I don't see any. But with that, I'd answer any questions you guys have, and Mr. Money is available as well.
So the residents agreed to these changes?
Yes, sir. From my understanding, they had a very, very good meeting, productive meeting, and they were all in support by the end of the meeting. So.
I spoke with the gentleman that spoke for the neighborhood last time, a couple of days ago, and he said they were pleased with their meeting.
Move for approval then.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
And a second. Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, here we come with the noise ordinance for the chief.
Mayor, members of the council, as Chief's coming forward, I think after a conversation between Chief Keene and myself, Chief's going to present his hard work since our last meeting, kind of give you an update on what we're, the kinds of things we're looking at possibly changing. But we're not going to ask you to approve that this evening, so I know Mr. Edges would like to reserve his comments, but it might be something that everybody needs to kind of think about as we talk about the proposed changes, and we'll be anticipating bringing this back in June.
Do we have printed copies for the crowd, the people here?
We don't have specific copies now.
No, because there's going to be some tweaking done to it.
We don't have an actual ordinance amendment drafted yet.
So, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. If you look at the memo that I put, and I apologize for the date, it looks like it's 2 years old. But it's not. I haven't been working on it that long. I tried to outline some of the changes. Much of the ordinance stays the same. And after some struggle, we've kind of moved away from adopting any measuring device that we might have to obtain, and then a decibel chart that we might have to follow. Several reasons for that. One is Chief Moore happened to pull up an app on his phone during the last meeting that read decibel levels, and the noise level inside our meeting room exceeded most of the charts that you find on police department scope of exceeding the sound. There's a lot of reasons for that. It measures a cumulative noise and not necessarily a specific noise coming from a certain location. So there's some fallacies in that system. So the things that you see in the memo that changed, there's a purpose chapter that kind of outlines the reasons for the ordinance. I know the mayor's happy to see a vehicle noise chapter that is in there that addresses amplified sound coming from vehicles as well as mufflers, modified or not. There's a lot of changes in the permitting section, which would allow permits to be issued to exceed the ordinance, but it would only be granted 4 times in a single location per year. And then also, I think in one part of the section, when amplified sound is being used by a patron, it backs that up to 11 o'clock instead of 12 o'clock. And then it all has determinations for the officers to kind of use when determining whether something's unreasonable or not. There's still going to be a lot of discretion with the officers and the citizens and coming to an agreement. Obviously, one person's definition of reasonable is not the other's, as Mr. Moore has experienced with his new neighbors lately. I hope that's kind of fixed itself. It has a little bit. So it's going to take a little bit of massaging of this document to get it exactly like we want it. And I apologize to the Moose Lodge representatives. Even when we probably present it, we won't read the entire ordinance aloud, but we could have it for distribution to the audience if the town manager deems that appropriate. But I'm willing to answer any questions. I apologize, this isn't a perfect document yet at this point. But speaking with the town attorney, and I tried to cover everything, and then that turned into, well, we've already covered that in this chapter. Why are we saying that again in different words and that type of thing? So it's a work in progress. We hope it's a long-standing document, so we want to kind of get it exactly right the way we want it, and we don't think we're there quite yet tonight.
In the rezoning and that conditional use permits and stuff we just visited with Brookfield, the people got together and they worked it out.
Mm-hmm.
Could you maybe give a copy of it to the people from the Moose Lodge so they could read it and see it before it's presented to council? I know, is that all right?
Sure, absolutely.
And that way they would,
I think that could be done.
Mhm.
It,
so that when they get at the meeting that night, they won't
Right.
get it and
Absolutely.
try to read it.
Because it's a lot to try to,
Mhm.
you know, take in, et cetera. I understand that.
And not that you're the only person that violates the noise ordinance, because I know it's some people around too, but just because you have such a personal interest in it.
Yeah. I read it, and I like most of what I've seen. Makes a lot of it makes a lot of sense, but I think it is a good idea to have a hard copy that people can read and see.
And we'll also have copies of the draft at the June meeting.
Right.
for the audience members to come.
And if they could have, you know, before the meeting, they could have in hard copy.
Absolutely.
You can get electronic if you want to. I'm just old fashioned to that. I like a sheet of paper.
I see a lady standing in the back with a hand raised, but she didn't sign up, so I'm not allowing you to speak. If you had signed up, I'd be glad to let you do it.
Also, something I failed to mention, that if a location were to obtain a permit, that permit would only last for a 4-hour duration, so it wouldn't be like an all-day event. 4 hours would be the maximum time you could exceed what the ordinance stipulates.
I think Chief drilled down into ordinances from several locations, reviewed those, put a lot of work into trying to make some changes. So I think we're very close. We just want to have some chat over a couple of things and then kind of refine the final draft.
Yeah, I've taken the opportunity with the agenda package to take a look at it. I think Ryan's done a really good job in trying to address some of the issues that we've got here in town, and also to give some additional guidance to his officers on how to enforce. Our ordinance is, noise ordinance breaks down into two different kinds: a decibel meter, which some people call an objective standard, where you just look and see what's on the machine, and a subjective standard, which is what we have, which is what a lot of towns have gone with. As he said, there's pluses and minuses both ways. There certainly is a lot of minuses with the decibel meter. You have to be very, very careful. It's almost a science to the implementation and enforcement of it.
I know we had dB meters when I was with Greenville PD.
Yeah, Greenville has gone the decibel meter route. But again, I think he's done a really good job, and we'll work together with Terry and Ryan, and we'll see if we can bring you back something maybe next month that's for you to consider.
Does that satisfy you all now? At least we will try to have, when could you have some hard copies and they can pick them up at the PD?
We'll try to have it, I have to look at the calendar, we'll try to have it available a week before the meeting.
I'd be glad to drop her by.
We'll have it ready when the agenda goes out, which is the Wednesday before the meeting.
And of course, what we've got tonight, they can get a copy of this. So this is a working document.
Just for discussion purposes, I don't think there's going to be anything forthcoming in the ordinance that is going to steer one way or the other the comments that you may or may not have tonight. In the event, because you are renting the building, you're allowing amplified sound. So we're going to have this hurdle to cross, probably whatever's in this document in the end. So it might be, since you're here, to express yourselves as you would with the ordinance as it is right now. Just, that's my opinion. Thank you.
Does that suit you?
If I may ask the council and the police chief.
Mr. Edge, could you come to the podium? Thank you.
And that is fine. I'm glad that we're working on a impasse to fix the problem. I would just like to ask the council and the police chief that, since it is a issue with us, that we would like to be part of that working progress of finding out what's wrong or what we can do as far as making the new ordinance. You know, can we sit in, can we have a representative to sit in and say, you know, this works for us, this doesn't work, you know. I mean, it's not that if this is going to be the issue, because it don't only affect, and as you know, doesn't affect just the Moose Lodge and the town. It affects the whole city of Winterville and the people within it. So, you know, as a representative of that body, we need to have somebody sitting in to say, okay, well, what does this mean? So when somebody comes up and says, I need to, you know, is this too loud, or what am I supposed to do? I just feel like we need to have a seat at the table.
I think that's a good point.
I mean, we're always happy to take your input at any point in time.
Well, and I would like to go ahead and state forward that we are moving forward with implementing our sound situation. We're looking at soundproofing boards. We're looking at other things we can do. We have even talked about, like you said, the meter machines. We were going to purchase them ourselves to try to figure out what we were doing, but we realized there's not an ordinance for that. We're willing to meet halfway or six, three quarters. We just want to kind of fill out what the do's and don'ts are. We want to, like I said, a seat at the table to kind of know what's going on. We're not here to hurt, we're here to help.
Sure, and I think if I could say to anybody that attends this meeting or might be watching this meeting, please don't wait till there's a problem to weigh in on something that's important to you. You always have a seat at the table. It may not be a literal seat at a table at the time, but we always encourage people to contact us. After tonight, please let us know anything you have to say about the current ordinance and how it works for you, and certainly we'll get you a draft of what is in the agenda packet, or feel free to go to our website and pull the agenda packet up. It'll have the whole draft from tonight's meeting in that, and then certainly we'll keep you abreast as we make changes to the draft we are discussing this evening. But we understand that it affects you, it affects everyone, but I will also say, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, and Keen too, any changes in the ordinance are not gonna fix a subjective opinion about what is too loud.
Right.
That will always, until we go to a specific measurement, that will always exist. And even if you have a specific measurement, people will still deem that too loud at times. So I just caution everyone to just remember that there's no quick fix to a noise issue. We're just trying to make sure that we make it as enforceable as possible for police, but as reasonable as possible for the community.
We understand, ma'am, and like I said, we're willing to work. Our job is to help the community, and that's one reason we have the situations that we have, is that we can raise money to provide things for the community, things for other people within our organization, and that's why we have certain events. And sometimes events happen that may be a little louder than some people want, but
Well, we appreciate your willingness and wanting to be involved in the process, so we will make sure that you get ample opportunity, you and your members, to take a look at what we're proposing and give us feedback on that.
we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
I don't think we need a motion right now. so,
Yeah, if council's okay with coming back in June, then we'll make that happen.
But I do appreciate you all coming. Okay, item number 3 is the Recreation Advisory Board Composition Ordinance Amendment.
Mayor, members of the council, you have in front of you an amendment to the Code of Ordinances, the composition for Parks and Recreation Department. This is reflective of the changes that were approved in the minutes and at the board meeting on March the 11th. This is putting it into an ordinance formation so that it will be, we can move forward and it will be reflected there.
Okay.
We'll need to vote on that.
Make a motion to approve the ordinance.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Reappointment to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
Good evening again. I feel like it's been so long since we last spoke. We have 3 rec board members, current rec board members, whose terms are expiring at the end of this fiscal year, June 30th, 2019. Those members are Victoria Hawkins, John Relford, and Johnny Fleming. Typically, we come the month of May to recommend those that would like to serve another term for an additional term. As a side note, they do serve 2-year terms on the Recreation Advisory Board. Those are the 3 whose terms are expiring, and they have asked to be appointed to an additional
I know
term.
that we reappoint these Recreation Advisory Board members.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right.
Mayor, members of the council, while Travis is coming forward, if I could call your attention to, we've been trying to do an overall advertising campaign for people to fill vacant positions on our volunteer boards. So if you would just please reach out to people you may know that are interested. If they fit the criteria, please have them contact Don or my office, and we will certainly take an application.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is just a brief update on the speed limit signs on town streets. We did go ahead and install 2 signs on Church Street between Cooper and Main due to the market on the square there. And what we've decided to do is we're going to break the town up into sections, and Willie, the GIS coordinator for the town, we're going to go out and create a sign database, because it's not just speed limit signs that we have to maintain. Stop signs, street names, yield signs, speed limit signs, children at play signs. There's a lot of different signs, railroad crossings that the town maintains. And with the new age of GPS, GIS technology, I think the best thing is for the town to have a GIS database of all the signs, so we can quantify it and know what we have, where we have it. If somebody calls in and says the sign's been damaged, we can get on the computer, know where we need to call in and locate to replace it, things of that nature. And also, when we get done with this, the police chief and myself can go through and see where we need to add signs to adequately enforce the speed limit. So this is just we broke it up. We did a section of the town basically west of Highway 11. We've done this section already. And just to give you guys a brief view of what it'll look like when we get done.
While you're looking at Travis, we've got a major problem with people who are leaving Vernon White Road, going on to Mill to get onto Highway 11, and they're blocking the intersection.
People turning right off of Vernon White, or trying to go straight across?
Straight across.
Okay.
And they're blocking traffic.
Okay.
DOT needs to put a sign there about you can't
Blocking the
block.
intersection. Yes, sir.
You know,
We can contact them about them for sure. But here's I had to zoom in. It doesn't show up the best on the screen, but here's an example of what we have, what we end up with. You can see we've got the speed limit sign, we've got the pedestrian sign, we've got the stop signs, and we'll have that for the whole town, and we'll have a database. And each of these signs are different symbols and nodes, so we can quantify how many speed limit signs we have, and these are exact locations as well. So then the police chief and myself, if we need to look at some, look at an issue, if there's lack of enforcement or a lack of the ability to enforce, we can look at it and see that we need to add a sign here. And the intent is to do this for the whole town, then evaluate where we need to add signs, and then at that point add the signs. This is going to be a fairly slow process. It's not something we'll get done in a couple weeks, because we have a lot of signs in town. So we're looking at probably the next few months to get the map the GIS shape files created, and then we'll evaluate those. We'll start evaluating that as each section as we get it in, and then we'll update the signs accordingly. Any
You
questions?
may have mentioned it, Four Lines Road, from the 4-lane down to Reedy Branch Road. Is that in the city limits?
4 Lines, I believe, is in the city limits. Yes, sir.
It is.
Between Highway 11 and Reedy Branch?
Yeah, there's not a speed limit sign on that road.
Okay, I'll contact DOT about that. That's a DOT street. And that, right now, we're concentrating on the town streets. DOT is responsible for installing signs on their streets, but we certainly can coordinate with them and get that taken care of.
City Council would now, 4 Lines Road in front of South Central. It's in either our jurisdiction or theirs. It would be nice if somebody had jurisdiction on that road. Years ago, we
The road
asked
is
for it.
not, it is in the chief of, Will Hyde, if I'm not mistaken, that's State Highway Patrol's jurisdiction. The actual road, I don't know how that happened, but
They would at that time, but of course you have a different board now, and maybe we can ask them, since we have a neighborhood, along there, to take over that road. We need a motion for the board to ask Greenville to ask them, can we have that road to the entrance of the last part of the next Manchester?
Manchester.
Mhm.
Right. Well, we need to annex that, we need to annex that. Yeah, we'd have to annex it.
But we didn't have to ask Greenville to allow us to annex. We couldn't annex without their permission, could we?
I'm not sure of
I'm
that.
not sure it's in the city limits of Greenville either.
The courts don't look friendly upon annexing roads much anymore, just annex road.
Sorry.
Well, Greenville provides South Central
They
with their
do.
resource officer. I don't know
But-
what that necessarily means.
We know, because you all are aware, that that is a heavily trafficked, and often there are accidents that occur in front of either Creekside or South Central, and we may be dispatched as mutual aid on behalf of the State Highway Patrol, but that is who has primary jurisdiction on the road itself.
Highway Patrol, how about that?
So it's not in the city limits.
It is not in the city
City
limits of
limits.
Winterville.
I wouldn't doubt Fort Lyons is not at all. Quite.
We'll double check, but it's been a large source of discussion amongst staff, because rightfully, I understand citizens are confused. They don't, of course, the South Central's in Greenville, but it has a Winterville address. Manchester's in Winterville. It's very confusing, so we understand why it's a source of confusion for citizens.
Well, the school itself is in the city limits of Greenville.
Correct.
And they found that out last week when they had the shooting thing.
Well, their school resource officers are for Greenville PD, so.
Okay. Item under 11 is the audit contract.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. As we do every year, we have to bring before you the audit contract for the firm that the town will engage with for our annual independent review. Obviously, this firm has to be approved by the local government commission, and I'm recommending this year that we continue to use Carl Riggs and Ingram out of Goldsboro, same firm we used last year, and they helped us. Last year was our first full year with them, but they finished up the prior year when the other firm had been.
Did the price change?
Yes, $37,400. It went up slightly. So.
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
Anthony is so excited he cannot wait for another audit.
Yeah. The
The
second
interim
item-
audit,
Already done with budget.
it'll be here in May, so yes, so we'll get started on the
Second
first
item
one.
is a budget amendment.
He is.
Yeah, absolutely. Never a dull moment.
Second, the budget amendments, second item.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Tonight we have the fifth budget amendment for the fiscal year in front of you. It addresses 5 items. Most of them are pretty routine in nature. The first one is the addition of $25,000 from the sale of the fire truck at Johnston Community College. The second item addresses a loss of revenues related to heavy equipment tax. When the firm out on Highway 11, or the company that was there previously, left, they leased out a lot of heavy equipment, and the state has a heavy equipment tax. And so when the new company came in, they don't do the same type of business. While they both deal with heavy trucks, they don't lease them. And so we lost a lot of revenue, and that $26,000 was that hit for that. And so that's a revenue we won't have coming back in the future unless another company moves back in that leases heavy equipment. The third item, we have a contract with the Winterville EMS to reserve funds that are derived from rent of the building. That money is set aside for capital purchases, and they have requested $22,000 for the purchase of another power stretcher that lifts the patient and helps for easier access and loading into the ambulance. The fourth item, due to the age and state of being of the fire trucks that we currently have at the department, waiting for our new ones to arrive any moment now. The stork will be here. Then the department needs $6,200 to handle additional maintenance and repair of vehicles. And then the final item is for the sewer fund, and again, it's pretty much the same scenario as the fire department, where a lot of maintenance and repair of pump stations and various items throughout the department.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony.
All righty, item number 3 is the municipal election.
Mayor, members of the council, this fall, we have an upcoming municipal election, and the laws now is they're required, you all as a council have to request a one-stop voting site if you so desire to have one. Also, they have changed how you used to could have it a couple days versus the whole time period. Now you must have it for the full time period that they have one-stop voting. So
How long is that?
I'm not sure, and I'm not sure they even know that
I
yet.
think about 2 weeks.
It's according to their estimate, it is going to cost the town, which is the critical thing now, it would be $14,177.58 for the one-stop voting, and this estimate is from the Board of Elections. The regular election day cost is $9,136.45. So you can see the difference there for the day. There may be more people having to be in the site, and also we're talking about 2 different locations there versus.
It is a substantial increase in what we will pay for our municipal elections.
It's more. Heck of
However,
an increase.
I don't understand the premise behind not allowing a partial one-stop time frame, but staff's prepared to include that in the budget, assuming council does the one-stop. But we will need a vote on that.
This cost that we're looking at, it does not involve what they have over there on County Home Road for the one-stop.
That's correct.
That's entirely different. They are gonna have the one-stop still probably at that location.
They'll have them at any location that's willing to pay for and house a one-stop site.
Mhm.
So if we don't have one in Winterville, there will be one-stop sites. So,
I would like to make a
This is just for the municipal election, is that correct?
Correct.
Which will be in November?
correct.
Mayor, sorry, make a motion?
Mayor,
You,
Councilman.
Make a
So
motion?
there are no county funds being allocated for one-stop, if we were to have the one-stop.
The cost we're paying is for our, correct, the sole cost for our one-stop.
Yes.
so
The
we're
county will
talking
pay for
about,
the Alice King one-stop. I mean, they pay for the.
What I'm saying is, if we have a one-stop location, can someone come from Aden and vote?
Oh, absolutely,
That's
absolutely.
That's why I
Yes,
mean
yes, yes,
county.
yes.
There wouldn't-
We're just paying to to have it available.
Cause we have a lot of people that vote in Winterville because it's convenient.
Correct.
They do not live
That's
here,
right.
and when they get their ballots are not for our town.
Now, a portion of the one is proportioned out of it. It is not, because some of the areas covered are not wholly in the town of Winterville. So to a certain extent, there are some areas that.
So in essence, the costs here don't cover the whole cost of the, okay,
Make a motion to approve it.
Second?
Stop it.
yeah.
motion for approval for the one-stop,
Yes.
Yes.
that's 14,000.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Boyd.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, let's redo it. Everybody that's in favor, raise your hand. And opposed. Motion carries with opposition, and I tend to agree with.
The more people that we have
Councilman
vote,
Smith
you can vote on election day.
$14,000 is, we've been paying, if I remember right, somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,000.
It has substantially increased in the last few years, just the cost of elections, period, so.
Okay,
Was that a 4 to 1? I didn't see.
it was,
Three to one.
3 to 1.
I'm sorry. 4 to 1 just rolls out of my mouth.
okay. Does that take care of the voting situation?
I think
Y'all
we
voted
got
on the voting.
Okay. Item number 4 is in that dynamic transfer agreement with Duke Energy.
Evening, Mayor and Council. This item is, we're just kind of dragged in on it. This is for an agreement that is actually between NTE, our energy provider, and Duke regarding the amount of energy that is being generated at the power plant and what's being put on the grid and then available for consumption. We are party to this agreement because we are the recipient of the load from NTE. Therefore, we, being named as the load recipient, have to approve this particular agreement. It has no impact on our agreement, our existing power purchase agreement, or any prices that we are paying or will be paying.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and second for approval. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, the Railroad Street Ordinance Amendment.
Mayor, members of the council, you have in front of you an amendment to the Code of Ordinance traffic schedules, which gets the Railroad Street area in front of the police and fire departments and across the railroad in order with the way we have now repaved it and repainted it, one way on the one side and one way back on the other side. Travis is here to answer any questions, or I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Move approval.
Second.
Did I hear a motion for approval?
Yes.
In a second.
And a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Mayor and council, I'd like to expand on that topic briefly. We also need to discuss the loading, unloading zone that we had with the parallel parking. We had the last 2 spaces heading south on the west side of the road as a loading, unloading zone for the dance studio with the new angled parking. We've taken the sign down because it was basically, instead of 2 spaces, the sign was pointing at 5, and the sign was not an exact match to the ordinance, which was established in 2005. So we would like to receive council direction on whether we'd just like to see how it performs without any loading, unloading zone, or see if we want to establish one and bring an ordinance back. Just looking for council direction.
We're gonna probably hear
I was gonna
from the
say,
dance studio upon this decision. That's who used that loading zone primarily.
I do think, this is just the manager's recommendation. Travis and I hadn't really talked about this, but it's my opinion that we keep the 2, I guess, at the end. Is that what we would suggest?
That's what we had
Spaces,
prior, yes, ma'am.
As a 5-minute loading and unloading, and mark those accordingly, because even though the parking directions have changed, you've still got kids being dropped off with regularity, and there'll still be the same concern about getting in and out of there.
Would it take 2 though? Since it is just
Well,
one.
the ordinance calls for 2, but I think the ordinance also calls for 20-minute loading and unloading.
That's right. The actual ordinance that was adopted in 2005 was 20 minutes.
Right.
And they actually were not at the end of the street, they were right in front of the flower
That's
shop.
right.
Well, the only thing about putting them at the very end is if anybody's at the stop sign, it may block them from backing out of the space.
It's gonna be no easy fix.
What is the board's pleasure?
It doesn't have to be the last,
We
you know,
can,
the last
you
two.
can go ahead, I think we can go ahead and leave it, make 2 spaces for Loden, or we can leave it like it is until she comes.
When she comes.
Just depends on,
Well, what's wrong with 2 right in front of her place?
We could do
I
that.
know we want to 2 on the very end.
That's the two she used all the time, isn't it?
that would probably,
With the, parking change, that should work out well. 2 right in front of them.
We maybe could make the 2 adjacent to the handicap spaces, the 2 loading, unloading zones, just because it would be
that might be a good
Good
idea.
idea.
easy to
I think that's-
adopt in an ordinance. We could put that in an ordinance and
Yep.
council could adopt, and we could specify exactly which spaces they are. We'll bring that back to you as an ordinance next month. The other, just one more quick thing, we'll also bring an ordinance adopting those handicap spaces, as handicap spaces, so the chief can enforce those. Thank you.
Not good comments.
Could we keep them in front of the dance thing, the dance studio?
The loading, unloading zone?
Well, I think in the ordinance, it refers to businesses that are at least one no longer in existence, so we.
Right,
can
it's
convert them to
Empress's
that.
Attic and Winterville Flower Shop. But I believe if they're on the south side of the handicap spaces, they're gonna be,
They gotta go by the little club then.
that's true.
That's-
I'll have to look at it and see.
You know, I mean, no harm meant, but, you know, I think that was one of the concerns.
Okay. Well, we can make it, do the ordinance just right in front of the dance
And we'll
studio.
use the, address instead of a.
Instead of a business name, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll bring that to you next month for adoption. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis.
Okay, thank you, Travis.
I like that.
Okay, item number 12 is the date and time rescheduled for the special call meeting for to conduct the town manager's evaluation.
Mayor, members of the council, based on some recent things going on with some of our council members, we postponed the meeting that was previously held for the 6th of May, I believe. And I realize that Councilman Hines is still not with us tonight, so we don't know what his calendar is. But I put this on the agenda to see if you all wanted to look at trying to reschedule this for a time in the very near future. I do think the rest of May is probably gonna be challenging to meet for several of us just because of calendar. So if it's okay with council and town attorney, maybe look at sometime in June. I didn't have a date specific in mind because I didn't know what everyone's calendars. We do have our budget public hearing at 7 o'clock on the 3rd. So I didn't know if, because you were already coming to town hall for a meeting, if you wanted to try to do it maybe starting at 5:30 on the 3rd.
What day of the week is
That's
the
a
third?
Monday.
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 Yeah.
Sounds
Have to
good.
set on the Monday.
It's a good
At
day.
what time?
If it's okay with council, if 5:30 on Monday the 3rd works,
Yes.
that way we could then just sashay right on into the public hearings.
It sounds good.
I'm expecting good stuff at the public hearings, so we're gonna sashay into the public hearing.
Is that 5:30?
Yes, sir, if that's all right.
That'd be fine.
And if you all would,
Do we need a motion?
yes, please.
Yes.
Do I hear one?
So moved.
Second.
And a second. In discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Great, thank you.
All righty, item number 13, what's something for future work session, or agendas or work session?
Don't have anything.
Okay, good. All right, item number 14, reports from the department heads.
Just wanted to let everybody know, we've got a situation downtown at Railroad and Main Street. We've got a sewer manhole that is starting to collapse, and our camera's been in the shop. We've got a loaner camera from Atlanta that got here Friday when we were able to get it together and start using it. We cambered that manhole today and found basically the manhole's collapsed into the pipe, and we're almost 100% sure we're gonna have to replace that manhole. Right in front of the old bank building, right in the intersection of Main and Railroad, right in front of Mary and Vinnie's. So we're coordinating with DOT and our engineer. That manhole was slated to be replaced because of its poor condition with the 2018 SRF project that the engineer's working on right now. But obviously, we're not going to be able to wait. We're going to have to go ahead and do that. It's an unexpected expense, but I will keep council abreast of what's going on, and we'll push forward and do what we need to do to get it fixed.
Travis showed me some of the video and the picture thereof, and it's not a pretty sight. So it's definitely something that will need to be addressed sooner rather than later.
Is
Heavy trucks go along that road.
There is, and that manhole is really old.
It's killing our streets downtown, heavy trucks going
It's
through.
tough.
Well, I've like from the Boyd Street project, I have spoke with them many times about keeping those trucks off of our streets. You know, if I see a contractor driving loaded dump trucks, most of the time we ask them to stop.
And the trash truck that's getting our trash can is a heavy,
It
heavy
is.
piece of equipment.
It is.
This right here is gonna be an in-house repair?
No, sir. Well, we will assist, but we'll have to contract it out. It's going to be about 13 feet deep, and due to the time-sensitive nature of it, you know, we're going to contract it out. It's pretty deep. Our equipment is not big enough to handle digging that deep and putting those type of shore and boxes in there. And like I said, just us doing like bypass pumping, setting up detours, things like that. That'll take our whole crew just to do that, you know, assisting. So, just want to let you guys know what's going on. You'll see us out there probably often.
Thanks, Travis.
All righty, let's see, the first item is a minimum housing code enforcement.
Well, Mayor, members of the council, we normally just kind of, you just kind of ask folks
Ask,
if they
yeah,
want to come
anybody-
up. I will give
anybody.
an update that both Mike Brown and Willie Gay are working hard on code enforcement. Grass is upon us and it's growing, and mine included. I feel like every time I turn around, I may get a letter from the town,
It
but I
rained
try to
heavy,
keep on
you
top
say.
of it. Yeah, I know. But we're sending out lots of letters for grass, overgrown lots. We are also, Mike Brown, staying on top of some code enforcement, minimum housing code enforcement cases. And I don't have anything specifically to report at this time. No new ones added to the list, but we will continue to stay on top of those.
How are we looking on the cars, the ones that is not,
Junk cars?
yes?
I'll look at Chief Will Height, but I know that the police department, I believe, each shift has been given an area of town to patrol. And it is incumbent upon the officers to try to be proactive. And now that we've gotten past the large amount that we initially took enforcement actions on, so they're trying to keep up with them on a regular basis. If you see one, or if you suspect that you have seen one, please reach out to Chief Will Hyde and they'll get their folks to look into it.
Refresh my memory, if a car is on the street with no license plates, that's improper or illegal.
No registration is not by itself a violation. It usually either has a property value less than $1,000, its tires are flat, it's partially dismantled or wrecked. So there has to be a few prongs for that. But there are quite a few that meet those stipulations.
But it could be as few as two. It's like
Yes.
a license plate and or.
Correct.
Dun, 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 dun.
Right. I think there's three, if I remember right, mentioned, and it can be as little as two of those three.
Usually, if it has a license plate, it meets one of the other criteria. But police have been proactive and also in the private, on private property as well as public property.
Thank you, Chief. Anyone else that would like to come forward and speak?
That crowd looks excited, don't they?
Okay. Let's do the announcements next.
That would be you.
Mayor, members of the council. A couple of you all will be leaving tomorrow for the City Vision 2019 League Annual Meeting, which is in Hickory. Good luck, safe travels, and brings back lots of good news from the meeting. Planning and Zoning Board meeting on Monday, May 20th, here in the Town Hall Assembly Room. Board of Adjustment meeting Tuesday, May 21st, 7 p.m. here in the Town Hall Assembly Room. And a real important one on Monday, May the 27th, Memorial Day, and so Town Hall will be closed that day. Town Council Budget Work Session, Tuesday, May 28th at 6 p.m. at the Depot. And the following night, Town Council Budget Work Session, Wednesday, May 29th, 6 p.m. at the Depot. And then the budget public hearing is Monday, June 3rd at 7 p.m. here at the Town Hall Assembly Room. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Report from the town attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report. However, a moment ago when y'all were talking about one-stop voting, I texted a friend of mine who's works for the Board of Elections, asking him how many days, just informational. He said roughly the second week in October to the first weekend in November. He said he would verify it, but that sounds like it's about 3 weeks.
Thank you, Ken.
Yeah, there you go. Never know where you can find
I
information
like
from.
that.
That's it. Subject questions, that's all I have. Thank you.
A correction, on the 3rd, we'll meet at 5:30 for evaluation. And,
that having been added, yes.
Correct.
With 3 weeks to vote, we should get 100% turnout.
Yeah, I'll
Can't we cut it?
surprises.
They won't let us cut it for a week to a
No.
week?
I don't know why that was a change in the actual law. I don't know what prompted that.
So that's where the money's coming from. It's gone from a few days to 3 weeks.
That's right.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Robinson.
No report, it's getting late. My bad.
I would like to tell everybody thank you for the consideration and the messages and everything during this past couple of weeks. It's been really rough, but I do appreciate it. I know a meeting was canceled to accommodate Ricky, and I speak on his behalf too. I know he appreciates it too. So thank you to the Town of Winterville family.
2 quick things. Do we have an ordinance on the number of buildings that you can have in your backyard? Can anybody
Yes.
tell
Well-
me?
So,
Come up, Brian.
Not specifically a number, so it will be percentage of what the gross floor area of the principal structure will be. So for round number sakes, if you got 1,000 square feet of principal floor area, you can have 500 square feet of accessory structures.
Okay. Well, I need for somebody, because I've had about 4 phone calls from folks on Barrel and folks on Primrose in regards to the home that is on the corner of Ainge and Barrel. And I went by there, and I know them. They actually, I used to live in the house. The rental home that I have is.
I know
our
exactly which one you're
backyards are
talking
together.
to, and
They
they
got-
actually are within the parameters of the zoning ordinance.
They are?
Yes, sir.
Oh, my gracious.
Yeah, because the buildings are only,
Nice people, but there are 3 buildings in their backyard. And their backyard is smaller than this meeting room.
Can we change the ordinance?
you can, at your direction, I'll draft anything you want.
You can. I don't know if it'll take care of this property because it will already be in existence.
This
but-
one didn't change.
So you've already been out there and looked at it,
Yes, sir.
and that's legal.
According to the zoning ordinance, it is.
Shame
yes, sir.
on us.
There's nothing that would prohibit the number, like I said, so as long as it's meeting that threshold of the floor space, the gross floor area.
We may want to take a look at a number of buildings just for.
I mean, they look brand new. They're nice. That's a small backyard, and boy, these people are gonna be real happy when I call them back and tell them that that's legal.
Well, what kind of problem is it causing? I'm just asking.
I don't know that it's causing any problem other than I guess folks think that it's an eyesore.
It looks out of place. It does. I mean,
It looks strange. I went by there.
Hmm.
I mean, there's 3 buildings lined up.
And there could
they're
be
nice people, don't get me wrong.
And there
I
could be
know.
something in the restrictive covenants that wouldn't allow it.
I was just a little shocked.
I doubt
'cause-
that.
I don't know.
That's the only thing I was gonna mention. We were talking about restrictive covenants today. Of course, that has nothing to do with us, but
Absolutely.
a lot of restrictive covenants, I hadn't looked at this one, will limit the number of accessory buildings you can have.
I'm not sure that section of Cooper's Point has restrictive covenants.
They may or may it's not something I typically look at. I was just throwing it out there.
Something to look at, it's a possibility.
All right. Number 2, moving on. Now that we have the L'Orealis extension open, who's gonna mow the grass out there? It's pretty high right now.
It is.
It's a great question.
It's in the median and then right beside the
Has it-
sidewalks. Now, some of that is, I don't know if that's that fescue that they put down, but heck, it's that high.
It's contractor's mix rye, that's why it looks so high, is because it's thin and it just looks tall.
Okay.
I would nominate Evan.
I just know
We have an
it's gonna need to
agreement.
be mowed at some point in time.
We get reimbursed from
The
DOT.
DOT's not gonna come mow it.
We do get reimbursed from DOT to mow like Highway 11 and some of the other right-of-ways, albeit it does not come close to covering our costs because we go above and beyond because we want to make sure it looks nice. I'll probably contact them. I thought about this last week, and either we'll mow it in-house or we'll add it to the schedule when the contractor mows Highway 11. Maybe the better thing because people seem to be going pretty fast through there.
Yeah.
Right.
And, yeah, it's pretty
But
large
they do
area.
a fabulous job on the Parkway. I mean, from the time you get up to Reedy Branch, all the way through to.
We go all the way to
Pit
Tice Road,
Community,
yep.
it is mowed nicely, and I have people talk about it all the time.
A lot of
It really
people
looks
comment how
nice
nice
out
it
there.
looks when you get to Winterville.
It does.
It'd probably be the best if we just add it to his contract. He's right there. We can do that. We're getting towards the end of this fiscal year. We might just mow it in-house till July 1st and then have him start mowing that, see what he charges. Why don't they?
The fence.
Why the fence down?
We actually talked with them a couple years ago about replacing that fence, and they said that they were going to try to just take it down and because it was cheaper and looked better versus replacing it, as long as they don't get any encroachments onto the right-of-way. People trying to put a driveway in, because that's non-access.
Yeah, the access is not changing, even though the
That's right.
fence is legal.
It's still non-access, but they
Most
took
of
the
those
fence down.
fences were put up a long
Long
time
time
ago, back
ago.
when there were.
And if you remember, probably 4 or 5 years ago, we got them to come in here and clean up all the brush. They cleaned it up with the agreement that the town would keep it sprayed and try to keep it maintained when we mowed. And we've done that, and a lot of people have commented how much better it's looked over the past few years.
The deer are gonna start coming onto the road, more access from deer.
Right. Well, the deer can jump that little fence, and that fence was down in half the spots anyway. It was
It had some
knocked
better
down.
days.
So they're going to try to leave it down and see how that works. It's a trial run. If it doesn't work, they'll come back and reinstall it. So just an aesthetics thing.
I've had, I don't know how many conversations with Mr. Davenport, who owns that property, about those fences. He wanted them down. And I did mention it in a couple of TAC meetings to the DOT representative there. And, I don't know if they had
Probably
anything
so.
to do with it or not, but, they are down and it does look a lot better.
Yes, sir.
And I had one other question about the road going through, if you want to call it the L'Orealis extension. Has that been accepted by the city in its street system?
That's a DOT street.
Right.
The town does not maintain
It
that.
has been?
It's a DOT road. It's just the extension of L'Orealis,
Okay.
which is DOT road.
So we won't maintain that street. We will, there will be some side streets whenever that park develops that likely they would want the town to take over. And of course, if they do want them like that, we'll make sure we inspect them when they're built and built to our standards before we take them over.
Okay. All righty. Mr. Moy?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry, when the department heads was called a few minutes ago, I did wanted to ask the question about the Nobel Canal. What's the status is on that?
About what now?
Are they here?
Okay.
The Nobel Canal.
The Chapman Street culvert replacement project.
Yes.
The engineer, in fact, he just texted me about 5 minutes ago. He's getting the specs 100%. They're pretty much done. They're going to get that to me for final review. We're waiting on an easement map from a local surveyor. Once we get that, we've already got a purchase order for Telex right here in town on Mill Street to assist us with negotiating those easements. We've got to obtain easements from 4 property owners in order to do that work. And one of those properties is, I believe it's a church property, and we're going to make sure we go ahead and negotiate an easement all the way along the canal, so for future work, we don't have to go back and get another easement. We've already got enough easement, hopefully, to do any work we need to do.
So what the plans on that project? What we planning on doing? How much development are we planning on doing?
We're replacing the culvert under Chapman Street.
Just that part.
That's what we're doing, yes, sir.
So we didn't come up with any means or funds. I was thinking that we was hoping that we can be able to extend that project, or at least up to Mill Street.
Remember, I think we talked about this in the stormwater conference. We were going to talk about it in the budget workshops. The town will have to pay for that additional work. And the engineer's getting us cost estimates together of what it would cost to do that, to permit and do all that. And we're going to present that at the budget workshops in a couple of weeks. But that's something that is not part of the funding that we receive from Golden Leaf. In fact, we're hoping that what we are awarded, which is just under $1.1 million, is going to be enough to cover the work that we are doing, replacing that culvert with an adequately sized culvert. Economy's good right now. I think Terry would attest to this. We have some other projects related to the town that came in over budget, so we're crossing our fingers that this project comes in under budget or at budget.
So we do not have we do not have a cost on.
That's being put together now.
A cost estimate on from Chapman up to Mill
To
Street?
Mills, yes.
Right, that's what we're going to bring to you at the budget workshop.
Thank you.
Thank
When
you.
does the contractor on Boyd Street get off vacation? Cause they ain't been down there lately.
They ain't working today?
It's the first day they've been down there. They were down there today.
That's been the problem all
I thought they
along.
were there yesterday.
Taking
I saw
long
them
times off.
excavating.
I didn't see him there today.
Might have saw
I
some
rode by.
equipment sitting down there, but there ain't been nobody working down there in a while.
When I rode by after lunch, it was sitting there.
I thought they were on vacation again. And when's that project supposed to be done?
November last year.
No, the new time frame.
September is.
I thought they said midsummer.
I would guess that's when it's going to be done. There, I don't know.
I would guess late fall.
I think the storm drain.
Short amount of time.
I think the storm drain is pretty much all in. I think there was an issue with the gas main being in the way of the last little run of storm drain. I don't know if they're still waiting on Green Utilities to move that gas main, but I know they're pretty
patient
much
people
done.
down there, because if I lived down there, I would be raising hell,
I agree.
because it is ridiculous.
They keep talking and they keep asking, but it doesn't do any good.
I can follow up with DOT tomorrow and just see if they got an updated time of completion. So, I can email everyone and let you know.
I mean, it's not your fault. I was just
Yeah.
noticed as I go by every day that they ain't doing nothing.
Well, I have to say, staff's done a good job in
And
trying
the weather's
to,
been great.
trying to stay on top of what's happening there and calling when they see things that are not as they should be, insisting that contractors come back and fix
I
it, et
think they need
cetera.
a new contractor down there is what they need.
Well, like Terry said, we'll still have a final walkthrough on the utilities that they put in at the town, the water and sewer, so. But I'll follow up with DOT and check on that.
Thanks, Travis.
Thank you.
The other end looks good, the one they finished.
Sure does, looks nice.
Okay. Madam Manager?
I just wanted to let Councilwoman Robertson know and Councilman Hines knows that we continue to send our thoughts and prayers and stand by you as your family over the coming weeks as you deal with your difficult times.
I had the pleasure of being invited at the opening ceremony, I'll call it, of the baseball tournament at Pitt Community College. And I was asked to throw out the first ball, and I went.
Did you throw a strike?
And I threw the ball, and when I got home, my wife said, "Could you get it to home plate?" I said, "Sure." I was halfway between the pitcher's mound and home plate, but I got it there.
Hey, whatever it takes, whatever it takes.
With that being said, do I hear a motion be adjourned?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. They got, I tell you what, they got a nice
It is
field.
I think that
Brunswick County is the first team that played. The first with 10-1.
Hey, Travis, can I have a word?
You're not going?
I wanted to get you for you.
You
got
stopped
out.
the meeting ninja.
Are those guys coming back this week? Do you know?
I'm trying.
Yes, how many going?
I was just wondering, my ditch is starting to get a little out of hand, and I need to start getting that mowed, because
I'm gonna try.
otherwise it's gonna be, the town's gonna be writing me a letter. I was just wondering if they're coming. No, they hadn't been there since last Wednesday.
Okay.
Are they? Yeah, they still got a little bit on the opposite end of Ames that they hadn't. They did. There were two guys out there, like maybe Friday afternoon, and they were just doing a little bit of work, because you could tell it's not packed in and stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah, I seen a bunch of people taking it. Yeah.
They just finished working.
That's what I was wondering, because I had to get down in there and start. Another question. I had time to look at it this weekend a little closer. The tile that we put in on the bottom, I don't think that's gonna do us any good, but that's no big deal. Water's gonna sit there anyway, but I don't think that tile is gonna, it's so deep. You know, the one under the cement that you had put in. Yeah, I don't think that thing's gonna do any good.
Not, I guess, just the elevation to get there.
Right. Okay. I see what you're saying. See, I think that's gonna look strange though. Unless it's, I don't know. I mean, it may, I mean, when it rains like it did today, the water's gonna sit there anyway. I don't know. Yeah. 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 Right. Well, I guess we won't know until it rains good. I mean, it didn't rain long enough today. All right, and last question. I'm assuming where we put the tile in the little farm ditch next to me, are they going to rock? Are they going to rock that up? Because that, nor the piece that goes across that's going to connect in to the neighborhood, they're not rocking that up. Because you know they went down and dumped a bunch of rock on the swell down from me.
And they were parking the driveway.
Somebody dumped a bunch of other rock in there. There was some rock.
Right now, I think that, I don't know.
Well, if they did, I mean, you can't fluff rock. I mean, there's a lot. Well, maybe, but even my wife said they put a bunch of rock down there. It looks like they've added a bunch of rock down there on that swell. Well, maybe they did. It looks like there's a lot more rock than what was there. So I was trying to figure out, are they going, I don't necessarily, the pipe that you put in on my swell That probably don't need any rock. Yeah, but that other end, I mean, you saw where it's leaving by my driveway. I'm just afraid that, well, I mean, we got one tile, two tiles. I'm just wondering if we need to rock it in. Well, it already is, isn't it? Really? So it's not straight across?
Your expenses, you got for meals that were not included in the
I'm glad to know it. How'd it go? How you feel
Yeah, I
today?
guess I just hadn't noticed because I already thought it was
Proud of
lined
you
up.
though.
And they put in a pipe in the ditch, and I'm assuming that was just to get the piece of equipment? That was just to get the piece of equipment over. Yeah.
I'm
Right.
so proud of you.
Okay.
Young folks.
We had 3 police officers